In the last episode, we traced the shadows, those plants that seem innocent but carry energies that pull, scatter, or stir unrest. It was a necessary warning, a call to see with more than just our eyes. Today, though, we do something different. We turn toward balance, toward beauty that doesn't just decorate, but resonates. Because not all plants are passive ornaments. Some are quiet protectors, gatekeepers, signal posts that tell the universe, this space is ready, this life is open, this energy is sacred. So let's be clear, this isn't a video about gardening. It's about alignment, intention. It's about how the right plant in the right place can shift everything, how it can soften the chi that enters your home, uplift the moods that gather by your entry, and remind you day after day that you are not just surviving, you are curating the energy of your life. And before we go further, let me say something important. We're not here to beg for your subscription. We're not asking you to like or share this video just yet. In truth, we don't need fast numbers. What we truly hope for is that in the few moments you spend here, you receive something of real value. Not just tips, not just knowledge, but a feeling of clarity, a breath of calm, a deeper alignment with your life. As someone who has spent years guiding others through the wisdom of Feng Shui and mindful living, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to offer a space of grounded guidance, a mirror to help you see yourself more clearly. And if these words help you feel even just a little more in tune with yourself or your surroundings, then we've done what we came here to do. If one day you feel called to return, to journey deeper with us, know that the door is always open and we'll be right here waiting. Because truthfully, many homes feel unsettled not because of architecture or decor or budgets, but because something subtle was overlooked. A placement, a presence, a message given without words. When you walk past your front door each day, your energy reads everything. Is this a place that opens or deflects, welcomes or warns? That's why today matters. You see, the front door isn't just where people step in, it's where life steps in. And every object you place near it, especially the living ones, affects how that life arrives. Whether it flows or stalls, whether it nourishes or numbs. That's why this video exists, not to impress, but to remind that every leaf has a language, that even silence speaks, and that with just a few thoughtful choices, you can begin to shape a home that not only feels beautiful, but feels right. So let's begin, not with rules, but with awareness, not with superstition, but with presence. Let's walk together through the threshold and meet the 9 guardians you'll want standing at your gate. Section 1, from Cactus to Lavender. Soften the guard, not the gate. There's a difference between protecting your home and pushing everything away. Some objects placed near your front door seem like guardians, but over time, they end up guarding you from the very flow you're hoping to welcome. That's where Cactus comes in. While its spiky form is often admired for its strength, in Feng Shui, its energy can act as a silent repellent. Its sharp points aren't just physical, they're symbolic. They signal defense, boundaries, and at times resistance. And when the very first message your front entrance sends is stay back, that message isn't just heard by negativity, it's heard by opportunity, warmth, connection, and harmony too. Many people place Cactus at their doorstep with good intentions. They believe it keeps danger or misfortune at bay, but in practice, it often creates a low-level energetic friction. Visitors may feel uneasy, conversations turn short, or your home might carry a subtle restlessness. The front door is your home's first energetic handshake. What you place there matters more than you think. Now contrast that with Lavender. Everything about it says the opposite. Its shape, its scent, even its color. Lavender doesn't spike, it softens. It doesn't repel, it realigns. Its presence calms, balances, and signals safety. It says, here, you can exhale. For homes with a lot of movement, active children, multiple schedules, or guests coming and going, lavender creates a buffer between the outer world and the peace you're trying to cultivate inside. It gently reminds everyone crossing the threshold, this is a place for harmony, not hurry. In Feng Shui, lavender is more than a pretty herb. It's an emotional filter. It transforms the transition between outside and in. When placed near the front door, in sunlight, either side, it blesses each entry with calm. Its scent becomes the first impression of home. And for you, arriving after a long day, it serves as a reset. It's not just a plant, it's a signal to your nervous system, you're safe now. This doesn't mean lavender is only useful in quiet homes. Quite the opposite. It's especially helpful in spaces filled with unspoken tension. Households healing from emotional rifts, couples working through conflict, or families trying to communicate better. Lavender doesn't fix problems, but it shifts the energy so that healing becomes easier. Its presence soothes without needing explanation. If you live in an apartment or don't have a yard, potted lavender still works beautifully. Use terracotta pots for grounding or soft blue ceramics to introduce a touch of the water element, enhancing emotional balance. Just make sure the space around it is clear. Don't crowd it with clutter or neglect. Lavender needs breathing room, just like the peace it offers. Now you might ask, isn't cactus stronger? But strength isn't always about defense. Sometimes it's about clarity, about choosing an energy that doesn't fight, but flows. Lavender doesn't guard, it invites. And in that invitation lies a deeper kind of safety. So this transition from cactus to lavender isn't just about replacing one plant with another. It's about choosing what kind of message you want your home to speak before you even open the door. And if you're someone who's been craving stillness, emotional clarity, or a greater sense of connection inside your home, this one shift can open more than just airflow. It can open presence, peace, return. Let the lavender lead. Let it whisper, not shout. Let it help your home become what you've needed it to be all along. A space that doesn't just look welcoming, but feels like it means it. And that's when Feng Shui becomes not just a layout, but a lived experience. Section 2. From bonsai to lucky bamboo, let growth flow freely. There's something undeniably captivating about a bonsai. Its tiny leaves, its elegant twists, its careful shaping that suggests patience and artistry. But in the world of Feng Shui, beauty alone is never enough. We must ask, what does this object symbolize? What does it whisper to the energy field of our home day after day? Because while the bonsai enchants the eye, it may also deliver a quiet message of restriction, of control, of constrained expansion. And when placed at the entrance to your home, the very place where energy is meant to flow in freely, this message, though subtle, can ripple deeply. It says, only grow this much, only rise this far, stay contained. What message is your home sending before you even step through the door? And more importantly, does that message align with what you truly want? This is where lucky bamboo offers a gentle yet powerful counterpoint. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't twist into showy shapes. It simply grows, upward, persistently, peacefully. Each stalk reflects strength without strain. Each root, submerged in clear water, embodies transparency and ease, where bonsai mimics the look of a tree forced into limitation. Lucky bamboo channels the energy of a plant unburdened by boundaries. And in that freedom lies opportunity. In Feng Shui, lucky bamboo is celebrated not because it's trendy, but because it aligns with one of the most essential principles of all: unobstructed upward movement. Think of a career that gains momentum, a relationship that finds its rhythm again, or a household that finally feels like it's breathing freely. That's the energy lucky bamboo quietly supports, not in dramatic bursts, but in steady rise. And sometimes that's exactly the kind of change we need. Not lightning, but light. If your life has felt stalled, if you've sensed that your growth, financial, emotional, or spiritual, has been trapped inside invisible walls, the problem may not be your path. It may be your threshold, your front entrance, burdened with symbolism that favors control over growth, may be setting the tone before you even begin. And lucky bamboo offers a quiet correction, a course realignment that feels natural, graceful, and enduring. Placement, of course, matters. It always does. Lucky bamboo thrives best in filtered light, just enough sun to inspire, but not so much as to overwhelm. Placed just inside the front door, especially in a gentle ceramic or glass vase, it serves as a symbol of welcome, of intention, of renewal. And if you want to go further, the number of stalks adds another layer of meaning. 3 for happiness, 5 for health, 8 for wealth. These aren't just numbers, they are energetic blueprints, whispered into your space. Now let's address the heart of the transition. Why move from bonsai to bamboo? Why not keep both? Because this isn't a matter of aesthetic preference, it's about energetic purpose. The bonsai, while beautiful, tells a story of mastery through limitation. But not all mastery needs restriction. Sometimes the most aligned version of growth isn't about control, it's about clarity. And lucky bamboo brings that. Without pruning, without wires, without the need to keep beauty small. Think about where you are in your life, not just your home, but your ambitions, your peace of mind, your sense of what's possible. Have you outgrown something but stayed small out of habit? Have you trained yourself to expect little because it felt safer than wanting more? If so, this isn't judgment, it's a moment of reflection. A signal that maybe, just maybe, it's time to let the energy of growth stand tall at your door. Unbent, unbound, unapologetic. Lucky bamboo doesn't shout, it doesn't chase trends, but it also doesn't apologize for rising. And that's the quiet power it brings into your space. Not in decoration, but in declaration. Not in form, but in frequency. So as you move from the rigid elegance of bonsai toward the natural strength of bamboo, ask yourself, what kind of growth am I really ready for? The kind that fits in a pot, or the kind that meets the sky? The choice isn't about removing beauty, it's about letting beauty evolve into something that not only looks good, but feels aligned. Because in Feng Shui, your entrance isn't just where guests step in, it's where energy decides whether to stay or go, whether to uplift or dilute, whether to flow or falter. And when lucky bamboo stands there, it carries a message as simple as it is profound. Here, we grow, freely, joyfully, without fear. If this message resonates, then you've already begun to shift, not just your decor, but your direction. Section 3, Bomb. From ivy to jade plant, release what clings, embrace what builds. There's a strange comfort in ivy. Its green tendrils stretch with soft elegance across fences, walls, gates. It weaves through time, climbing over decades, turning stone into story and structure into shadow. But in the lens of Feng Shui, we don't just observe a plant's beauty, we observe its behavior. And ivy's behavior is revealing. It clings, it wraps, it holds tightly to what's beneath, often smothering what was once solid. What does it say when the very plant at your front door cannot let go? when it survives by attaching itself to something else, rather than standing in its own strength? That question deserves more than a casual glance, because entrances aren't neutral. They set the tone, they mirror your energy before you speak. And when ivy dominates this threshold, the symbolism becomes harder to ignore. It's the energy of attachment, of the past refusing to release its grip, of relationships that overstay their welcome, of habits that once protected but now confine. And though the ivy grows, its growth isn't nourishing, it's draining. Slowly, subtly, ivy pulls energy from the very structure that supports it. What seems romantic at first glance becomes, over time, a quiet erosion. This is why the shift to the jade plant isn't merely decorative, it's restorative. The jade doesn't cling, it stands. With plump, rounded leaves that echo the shape of ancient Chinese coins, the jade plant carries a message of wealth, not in sudden bursts, but in steady, rooted expansion. Where ivy consumes walls, jade builds value. Where ivy's tendrils stretch endlessly with no center, jade's energy is contained, grounded, and calm. It doesn't chase, it doesn't cling, it accumulates. If you've ever felt like your financial life has been built on quicksand, where the more you try, the more it slips away, consider what kind of growth energy lives by your entrance. Is it hungry and scattered, or intentional and anchored? Jade teaches us that abundance doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply arrives and stays. Its placement, too, matters more than most realize. In Feng Shui, the wealth corner, also known as the Sun area, is activated by placing jade to the left of your doorway as you walk in. Not center, not right, but left. This isn't superstition, it's geometry of energy. When the jade sits in that spot, it signals a readiness to receive wealth that lasts. Not lottery wealth, but foundational, quiet, generational abundance. Now, reflect, how many things in your life still cling, not out of love, but out of fear? How many thoughts do you revisit that no longer serve you? How many times do you welcome people or patterns that wrap around your energy, not to support, but to feed off it? If ivy shows us anything, it's this. Attachment without intention becomes erosion, and letting it sit at your entrance is an invitation to allow that erosion to continue. Jade, on the other hand, offers a different invitation, one of self-sufficiency. It grows slowly, yes, but what it offers is not instant gratification. It's trust. Trust in process, trust in time. Trust that what is built steadily is far less likely to collapse. You don't have to hate ivy to let it go. You don't have to judge what it once meant. But in Feng Shui, we evolve our spaces as we evolve ourselves. And the move from ivy to jade is more than an aesthetic swap. It's a decision, a declaration that you are no longer entertaining energy that lingers without contributing, that you are no longer drawn to things that only survive by holding on too tightly, that from this point forward, your entrance will be one of grace, growth, and grounded wealth. Because homes are not just shelters, they are systems of energy. And every plant, every corner, every placement speaks a silent language that your subconscious hears loud and clear. If your threshold speaks of clinging, it may invite more of the same. But if it speaks of calm building, of slow but steady growth, then you've turned your doorway into a point of power. The jade plant doesn't perform, it doesn't take, it doesn't twist or spread or demand, it simply offers. And if your home, your finances, your sense of self could benefit from that kind of energy, then perhaps it's time to gently remove what once seemed romantic but now reveals itself as heavy. Let go of the ivy. Let go of what clings. And in its place, invite in something that builds. Section 4. From banana tree to lemon tree. Trade wild qi for uplifting clarity. In Feng Shui, the question has never been whether something is beautiful, but whether it is aligned. And few plants challenge this idea more than the banana tree. To the casual observer, it appears abundant, vibrant, alive, a symbol of tropical luxury, of lushness, of exotic vitality. But behind the aesthetics lies a pattern that speaks to the deeper currents of qi. The banana tree, with its rapid, erratic growth, its spreading leaves, its water-heavy trunk, and intense draw on nutrients, behaves in a way that stirs, not settles, the energy field around it. Its presence near a main entrance can feel overwhelming, scattered, or emotionally destabilizing, especially for those already navigating internal chaos. Because it doesn't just grow, it overgrows. It expands in unpredictable directions. And that, energetically, translates into movement without clarity. What this means practically is that a banana tree near your front door can pull energy in too many directions at once. Rather than anchoring and focusing life force, it disperses it. Rather than inviting in clarity or abundance, it invites overstimulation, leaving those within the home subtly agitated or ungrounded. This doesn't mean the banana tree is bound, only that it belongs elsewhere, in the back garden, in wild corners, in outdoor leisure areas. It can be a beautiful accent. But at the threshold of your home, the place where intentions, protection, and clarity need to be sharp, it becomes an energetic mismatch. That's why the transition from banana to lemon is not only symbolic, but essential. The lemon tree doesn't shout, it doesn't sprawl, it rises with quiet confidence and maintains a disciplined, contained form. Its leaves are orderly, its scent is unmistakable, and its energetic effect is deeply clarifying. In fact, across many cultures and healing systems, lemon is associated with purification. Not just physically, as in detoxing the body, but spiritually, cleansing spaces, neutralizing stagnant qi, and elevating the emotional frequency of the environment. When you approach a home and are gently greeted by the crisp, bright scent of lemon, the nervous system relaxes, the mind sharpens, the heart lifts. That's not anecdotal, that's chemistry. The compounds in lemon, especially limonene, have been shown to reduce stress, improve mental clarity, and promote alertness. And Feng Shui works with these subtle biological truths because energy, after all, is not separate from your body. When you smell lemon, you feel better. When you feel better, you think better. When you think better, you act from a clearer place. And from there, life flows more intentionally. So when a lemon tree is placed at the entrance of your home, it becomes more than a plant. It becomes a gatekeeper of clarity. It doesn't just say your home, it says let go of the fog, let go of the heaviness, come back to what matters. If your space allows, planting a full lemon tree in the front yard is an ideal scenario. It not only supports your internal alignment, but it broadcasts to the world around you that this is a home of clarity, cleanliness, and uplifted intention. It becomes an aromatic boundary, telling chaotic energy, scattered thoughts, and emotional residue from the outside world that it doesn't belong here. And if your space is more limited, a potted dwarf lemon tree placed near the door can be just as effective, so long as it is cared for, healthy, and intentionally placed. But beyond placement, consider this. What message does the presence of lemon energy send to your own subconscious? Every time you water it, every time you pass it, you are reminded that clarity is a choice, that you can be firm without being hard, clear without being cold, structured without being rigid. The lemon tree does not shout, it clarifies, it does not cling, it uplifts. And in the moments where life feels too much, where your thoughts race, where your schedule overwhelms, where your identity blurs, it is often this return to energetic brightness that saves you. The banana tree may seem like the more abundant choice, but not all abundance is supportive. Some abundance, especially the kind that floods without direction, becomes noise. And in Feng Shui, we are always listening. Listening to what the space is saying, listening to what it is asking, listening to what we are unconsciously tolerating in our environments. So ask yourself, is your entrance speaking in calm, clear tones, or is it shouting through the foliage? If you're seeking renewed focus, sharper insight, or simply a gentler start to your day, Lehman is a gift you can give your space and your spirit. Not because it's trendy, not because it's cute, but because it rebalances, because it trims away what is too wild, because it reminds you that every time you step through that door, you are stepping into the life you're actively building, and that life deserves clarity. Section 5. From Tamarind to Rosemary, uplift heavy energy with mental clarity. There are plants that nourish the body, others that beautify the space, and then there are plants that touch something deeper, our spiritual and mental fields. When it comes to tamarind, its value as a culinary ingredient is undeniable, rich with tang and flavor. But Feng Shui teaches us to go beyond taste, to look beyond physical traits, and examine the energetic presence that a plant brings into a space, especially at the front of the home, where intention meets environment. And tamarind, with its drooping canopy, dark fruit pods, and cultural associations with unsettled spiritual energy, becomes a more complicated presence than most expect. Across many traditions, tamarind trees are believed to house lingering or wandering energies, sometimes ancestral, sometimes uninvited. Its shade may feel cooling, but its energy is often described as heavy, slow-moving, or even emotionally dampening. Placed near a doorway, tamarind's energy can act as a veil, blurring clarity, slowing cognition, and inviting mental fog rather than direction. This isn't about fear or superstition. It's about noticing how certain living entities shift the quality of air, emotion, and thought around them. Tamarind holds a frequency that is best kept at a respectful distance from the thresholds where new energy enters and decisions are made. Contrast that with rosemary, a plant that doesn't just sit quietly in a corner, but actively shapes the environment around it. Rosemary is alert, bright, focused. It sharpens, it uplifts, it aligns. Its energy signature is protective, yes, but also mentally activating. Just as tamarind can cloud the threshold, rosemary can clarify it. Just brushing your fingers across its needle-like leaves releases a fragrance known to awaken the mind. In herbal medicine, rosemary has long been associated with enhanced memory, sharper focus, and emotional resilience. In Feng Shui, it is considered a natural amplifier of clarity and mental spaciousness. So for families navigating multiple responsibilities, for creatives working from home, for students needing focus, and for decision makers seeking confidence, rosemary doesn't just belong at the door, it belongs in the story of how they live. In a time where distraction is constant, where digital overwhelm clouds real insight, a rosemary plant at the entrance of your home can serve as a ritual of remembrance, to stay sharp, to stay grounded, to stay present with what matters. Feng Shui isn't about decoration, it's about function. And rosemary is functional on multiple levels. Its upward growth pattern supports yang energy, encouraging movement, decisiveness, and forward thinking. Its scent stimulates the brain's cognitive centers, and energetically, it acts as a shield against confusion, fatigue, and energetic intrusion. The message it sends to guests and residents alike is subtle but powerful. This home is a space of intention. We protect clarity here. To maximize its potential, rosemary is best potted in terracotta, a material that supports grounding and breathability. Terracotta not only stabilizes the plant's roots, but symbolically connects it to earth energy, giving it more authority and anchoring the space. Place it on the right side of your front door as you enter. Why the right? Because in traditional Feng Shui flow, the right side is viewed from inside the home, aligns with the tiger, assertive, watchful, and discerning. Rosemary in this position quietly reinforces discernment in the lives of those who cross its path. Each morning, brushing the rosemary plant gently with your hand isn't just a garden habit, it's a quiet activation ritual. It tells the plant we're awake, we're aligned, we're here to move clearly through the day. That moment becomes an energetic handshake between your home and your intention. And unlike the emotional weight carried by a tamarind tree, where ancestral energies may linger unresolved, rosemary leaves no echoes. It absorbs, processes, clarifies, and releases. It's not a vessel for spiritual fog, it's a lighthouse through it. It's important to understand that the reason we replace tamarind with rosemary is not rooted in shame or rejection. It's about acknowledging seasons, symbolism, and suitability. If tamarind carries weight, rosemary brings lift. If tamarind draws down the eye and the energy, rosemary draws it upward. We're not saying it to erase one plant and forget its gifts. We're saying there is a better partner for this space, for this chapter, for this threshold in your life. And it comes in the form of something humble, fragrant, evergreen, and always present. There are few things more powerful than clarity. When your mind is clear, your words follow. When your thoughts are strong, your decisions become lighter. And when your threshold reflects that strength through the presence of rosemary, it's as if the entire flow of your home remembers how to breathe again. Not in heaviness, not in confusion, but in a sharp, awake, purposeful rhythm that nourishes everyone who passes through it. Section 6, From Cotton to Prayer Plant. Trade the unseen for mindful stillness. There are objects in our environment that appear gentle, even harmless, yet subtly shift the emotional and spiritual fabric of our space in ways we don't always notice until patterns emerge. Cotton is one of those. To the eye, it offers softness, neutrality, even purity. To the hand, it gives comfort. But in Feng Shui, we are trained to look past the material and into the memory. And cotton, particularly raw cotton plants, carries with it a deeply layered energy, often interwoven with stories of hardship, labor, and lingering ancestral unrest. In some traditions, raw cotton is thought to hold a residual ghostly quality, not due to superstition, but due to its historical and symbolic associations. This isn't about fearing cotton as a material used in clothing or bedding, but about how the energy of the raw plant, especially when placed near an entrance, can feel energetically ambiguous, even unsettling. It's not just that cotton is soft, it's that it absorbs everything, quietly and endlessly, with no clear release. And this becomes a problem at the threshold of a home, the very space where energy should be moving, exchanging, filtering. Cotton, by contrast, gathers and holds, but never directs. Now contrast this with the prayer plant, a living, breathing presence that not only adapts to its environment, but engages in a daily rhythm of mindfulness. Named for the way its leaves fold together each evening as if in silent prayer, the prayer plant doesn't just grow, it participates. It reminds us every single night that closing the day with reflection is not only wise, but energetically essential. It embodies a cycle of stillness, of humble pause, of recognition that not all energy must push forward. Some energy is meant to bow, reset, and begin again. And isn't that exactly what so many of us long for at our entryways? Not just security or beauty, but a space that allows us to release the external and recalibrate before stepping fully into ourselves. The prayer plant offers more than oxygen or decoration. It anchors the home in awareness, in gratitude, In daily energetic closure, and where cotton might unintentionally leave emotional doors half open, the prayer plant gently says, now we pause, now we breathe, now we rest. It's no surprise that homes dealing with sleep disturbances, lingering anxiety, or emotional residue often benefit from the subtle recalibration that this plant provides. The folding motion of its leaves isn't random. It's a message, a signal to the subconscious that it's okay to pause, that there's beauty in rest, that resetting is not a weakness, but a ritual. For families struggling with overstimulation or individuals navigating emotional cycles, the prayer plant becomes not just decor, but a companion. In Feng Shui terms, the prayer plant's energy is yin, receptive, fluid, introspective, but not stagnant. It doesn't weigh down like tamarind, nor cling like ivy. It flows softly, gently pulling energy inward just long enough to recharge before releasing it back into the home with calm intention. Placed low to the ground, it connects directly with earth energy, drawing support, grounding emotions, and creating a sense of internal alignment that radiates upward. For optimal placement, choose a spot near the door that receives filtered light. Prayer plants thrive in humidity, which further symbolizes nourishment, flexibility, and life flow. The soil should stay moist, not too wet, not too dry, mirroring the need for balance and moderation in the home's emotional climate. And while it may seem subtle, just watching its leaves rise in the morning and fold at night can change how you relate to your own daily rhythm. It quietly teaches you to notice the closing of a chapter, the ending of a moment, the sanctity of rest. In contrast, cotton offers no such guidance. Its stillness is not meditative, it's inert. Its presence does not speak in cycles, but in echoes. Feng Shui reminds us that objects carry memory, and cotton, especially when unprocessed, carries memory that is neither clear nor resolved. If placed in the wrong spot, it can hold on to grief that isn't yours, tension you have outgrown, or even generational energies that no longer serve your path. That's not judgment, that's discernment. The kind that helps a home breathe easier. Choosing to replace cotton with the prayer plant, not about aesthetics, it's about emotional hygiene. It's about the kind of energy you want greeting you at the door. Do you want to be met by something that silently accumulates the unseen, or something that actively models the release of it? Do you want a symbol of burden or a symbol of ritual stillness? When you plant with that awareness, you aren't just curating a porch or entrance. You're setting the tone for every room, every interaction, every moment inside. And perhaps most powerful of all, the prayer plant doesn't just operate alone. Its influence extends. When placed near other yin-aligned plants like rosemary or lavender, it harmonizes the entire energetic field at the threshold, creating a sanctuary of calm rather than a corridor of chaos. Its energy isn't loud, but it is certain. It says, this is a home where mindfulness matters. This is a space where we pause before we press forward. And in today's frantic world, that message is not only rare, it's necessary. Section 7, From Morning Glory to Peony. Let luck linger, not fade. There's something almost magical about watching morning glory bloom. In the early light, its delicate flowers open wide as if stretching toward the promise of the day. But what begins in vibrant celebration fades quickly by mid-afternoon, collapsing in on itself and retreating into disappearance. And this rhythm, while beautiful in its own right, carries a deeper symbolic concern when it appears at the entrance of a home, the place where energy, fortune, and opportunities are meant to gather and linger. Feng Shui teaches us not just to observe what a plant looks like, but to observe how it lives. Morning glory lives quickly, burns brightly, and vanishes by evening. And while there's a kind of poetic melancholy in that, it may not be the best energy to anchor the threshold of your life. If the first message your home sends is that luck arrives swiftly and leaves just as fast, what message does that send to your subconscious, to your guests, to your goals? Do you really want the energy at your front gate to whisper, "This too shall pass," before it's even begun? That's where the peony enters, a flower as elegant as it is enduring, as grounded as it is grand. In the Feng Shui tradition, peonies are not just symbols of beauty, they are considered harbingers of lasting luck, romantic fulfillment, and legacy-level blessings. Unlike morning glory, they do not rush, they unfold, they develop over time, they bloom with presence, and that presence lingers, not just visually, but energetically. The peony's rich layers, soft curves, and deep, fragrant heart make it one of the most energetically nourishing plants you can place at your front entrance. It doesn't scream for attention. It radiates a kind of dignified abundance, the type of energy that says, there is more than enough here, and there always will be. This is a far cry from the message of fleetingness that morning glory offers. Peony doesn't chase the sun, it welcomes it. It invites luck to stay, to take root, to grow deep. In the emotional architecture of your home, that distinction matters. Some flowers speak of moments. Peonies speak of eras. They are flowers that have been revered across cultures and centuries. From ancient China, where they were known as the king of flowers, to Victorian England, where they were seen as symbols of bashful love. They appear in royal gardens, wedding bouquets, in family heirloom designs for a reason. Their energy is generous, enduring, and unmistakably refined. If your life has felt like a series of bright starts and sudden stops, relationships that bloom then ghost, jobs that begin with promise and end with uncertainty, ideas that burn quickly then fizzle, your environment may be reinforcing that pattern. And something as seemingly minor as a morning glory vine near your front gate could be part of that story. It's not about blame, it's about awareness. And awareness is where transformation begins. Switching from morning glory to peony is not about judging the plant. It's about aligning with the message. One says, this moment is all we have. The other says, let's build something that lasts. If your home is your temple, your threshold is your intention. What kind of energy are you inviting to walk through that door? One that collapses by noon, or one that blooms deeper each year? Let's talk color, because in Feng Shui, color is never neutral. It's a transmitter. Pink peonies represent gentle, nurturing love. They're ideal for families looking to deepen emotional bonds, or for singles who want to attract supportive, lasting partnerships. Red peonies, on the other hand, ignite passion. Place them when you want to energize romance, deepen commitment, or even spark creative fire in your career. White peonies are for clarity, spiritual purity, truth in communication, and peace of mind. Each color isn't just aesthetic, it's intention in action. Choose based on what your home, heart, or household needs most. As for placement, peonies thrive best near the front gate, slightly to the side, not dead center. This creates a balanced flow, allowing the energy to gather around the threshold rather than rush through it. A central planter also works well if the entrance is open and wide, particularly if flanked by other gentle, supportive plants like lucky bamboo or jade. And while peonies can thrive in the ground, potted varieties offer flexibility, allowing you to move the energy if your home's dynamic shifts. One of the lesser-known Feng Shui teachings around peonies is their impact on intergenerational harmony. Homes with elderly relatives growing children or multi-generational family structures often find a stabilizing effect when peonies are present. Their energy bridges gaps, not just between people, but between time frames. Where morning glory speaks of now, peony speaks of always. It's also worth noting the energetic difference in how these plants interact with light. Morning glory needs the early sun, blooming only when conditions are perfect and quickly fading once they're not. Peonies are resilient. They soak in morning, noon, and afternoon with poise. They're not fragile, they're fortified. And that's the kind of energy a front door deserves. Not one that rises fast and falls faster, but one that endures, calm, radiant, and unwavering. In emotional terms, switching to peonies is like switching from chasing highs to building roots. It's a commitment to depth over drama, to longevity over intensity, and to romance that stays rather than seduces. And that's not just a home aesthetic, it's a life philosophy. The real question isn't whether peonies are beautiful. That's obvious. The real question is, are you ready to let your luck last longer than a morning? Are you willing to welcome the kind of energy that asks you to slow down, bloom well, and stay? If so, the peony waits quietly, gracefully, just outside your door, ready to change the rhythm of how fortune finds you. Section 8. From wild grass to snake plant. Bring in boundaries, not chaos. Some homes don't suffer from a lack of energy. They suffer from energy that's unruly, scattered, or unfocused. That difference matters. Not all chi is helpful chi. Some forms, like those drawn in by wild, unmanaged plant life, come in bursts, disorganized, overstimulated, frayed at the edges. And one of the most common sources of this scattered movement, a wild grass. Seemingly harmless, often romanticized for its natural aesthetic, but quietly disruptive when positioned near the front or side entrances of a home. Because while wild grass may offer earthy charm in an open field or meadow, at your home's threshold, its message is less grounding and more disorienting. It whispers of things left untended, energy without structure, and boundaries that blur. If you've ever felt like your home never truly rests, if people come and go without pause, if plans change constantly, if your space feels more like a transit station than a sanctuary, it may not be you. It may be your landscape. Wild grass doesn't know how to stay. It moves with the wind, grows in every direction, and fades without rhythm. And as Feng Shui teaches, your space mirrors your life. A home framed by chaos, even beautiful chaos, is often lived in with the same disarray. So what does one plant in place of this unmanaged expression? You might be surprised by the answer. The snake plant, often misunderstood or dismissed due to its rigid, upright form, the snake plant, also called Sansevieria or mother-in-law's tongue, is, when used with intention, a boundary setter, a guardian, and a silent keeper of energetic order. Its shape is vertical and strong. Its leaves pierce the air in stillness, not wildness. It doesn't sprawl, it doesn't whisper, it stands. And in that stance, it says clearly, this is where energy begins and this is where it stops. Unlike wild grass, which scatters chi in unpredictable directions, the snake plant channels energy upward and holds it in place. That may sound subtle, but for homes with porous boundaries, whether emotional, spiritual, or even physical, that distinction is powerful. In Feng Shui, the ability to contain and direct energy is often more vital than simply attracting it. Snake plant doesn't bring chaos. It brings clarity. Think about homes where the lines between private and public are always blurred. Homes where people come in through side doors unannounced, where neighbors walk across your lawn, where children have no designated space for rest. These are environments in need of structure. Not barriers, but boundaries. Not walls, but markers. Snake plant fulfills this role quietly and with great discipline. It doesn't scream protection, it provides it. That's why the placement of this plant is so crucial. Unlike Jade, Peony, or Lucky Bamboo, plants that welcome energy at the front gate, snake plant is not a greeter. It's a sentry. It belongs at side gates near utility doors, by back entrances, or even inside near transitional spaces like mudrooms or laundry rooms. Places where energy tends to drift, cross over, or become confused. These are its domains. These are the thresholds it protects. One of the greatest misconceptions about Feng Shui is that all plants near the home should be warm, round, or flowing. But that's not true. A home needs structure as much as it needs softness. It needs quiet strength to balance its warmth. Snake plant offers this quiet strength. It stands where others sway. And sometimes, especially for those who feel overwhelmed, drained by too many people or too much noise, or who struggle to feel ownership over their own home, this kind of stillness is exactly what the soul requires. It's important to dispel the idea that snake plant is inherently sharp or negative. Its leaves are upright, yes, but their energy is not aggressive, it is directional. What people often label as harsh is often just misunderstood focus. Snake plant is like the monk at the gate, not the host at the party. It doesn't engage emotionally, it protects energetically. There's even a symbolic dimension to its form. The way its leaves grow upward in parallel can represent alignment between thoughts and actions, or the mind and the body. For homes with scattered priorities or unclear routines, the mere presence of snake plant can bring a subtle reinforcement of order and hierarchy, not in a controlling way, but in a harmonizing way. Let's return briefly to its visual contrast with wild grass. Wild grass flows outward, downward, all over. It creeps. It takes space without asking. Snake plant grows upward and stays within its line. It takes only what it needs. That visual containment sends a strong message to the subconscious. There is control here. There is calm. And that message is especially important for those recovering from burnout, navigating grief, or reestablishing control over their lives. If you have children or teenagers, a snake plant near their bathroom door or study area can help reinforce energetic boundaries between activity and rest. For couples working from home, one place near a home office entrance can help divide work energy from home energy. These small shifts in placement become cues, not just for qi, but for behavior, balance, and emotional separation. As with all Feng Shui enhancements, intention matters. Don't just drop a snake plant somewhere and walk away. And ask yourself, what part of this home feels porous? What area feels too open, too accessible, too unsettled? That's where your boundary setter belongs. That's where the snake plant will quietly do its work. It doesn't need praise. It doesn't require flowers or fragrance. It simply asks for respect and recognition. Caring for a snake plant is easy. Another reason it's ideal for transitional spaces. It tolerates low light, resists pests, and needs water only when the soil is dry. This makes it a symbol not only of boundary, but of self-sufficiency. It teaches by presence. You do not have to shout to be strong. You do not have to bloom to be seen. Sometimes standing tall in your truth is enough. In truth, this final switch from wild grass to snake plant is not about rejecting wildness. Wildness has its place, but not at the boundary between your home and the world. That line deserves clarity, not chaos. Purpose, not guesswork. Safety, not speculation. So the question remains, where in your home have you tolerated wild energy for too long? Where have you allowed beauty without structure to create confusion rather than comfort? Where do you need stillness that stands, not movement that distracts? If you can answer that, then the placement of your snake plant is already halfway complete. Section 9. From Willow Tree to Chameleia. Stand with grace, not sorrow. There are plants whose appearance captures us instantly. Soft, fluid, poetic. The willow tree is one of them. With its drooping branches and delicate leaves, it invites us into a moment of reflection. But reflection, when unchecked, can tip into rumination. And that's where the energy of the willow becomes less poetic and more burdensome. Because while the willow's posture whispers of gentleness, it also subtly reinforces emotional heaviness, a lingering weight at the edge of your home's energy. Some people, especially those navigating grief, heartbreak, or long transitions, may find themselves drawn to the willow without realizing what it's mirroring back. Its cascading canopy offers shade, yes, but not the kind that uplifts. It's a shade that soothes without stirring, a shade that shelters you from light, but doesn't call you back toward it. And for those placing such a tree near their home's entrance, that message becomes magnified. Let emotion flow, it says, but it never quite finishes the sentence. It rarely says, now rise. And yet, in Feng Shui, we know that energy is never simply about appearance. It's about how form translates into movement. And the willow's weeping structure, the very feature that makes it so beloved, is also what causes the chi to droop. The energy around it softens too far. It becomes passive, nostalgic, resistant to change. It tugs at your emotional field. It holds sorrow in its sway. And the longer it lingers, the more your space adopts the same quiet ache. So if your home's energy feels stuck in the past, wrapped in memories that no longer nourish, or simply dulled at the edges, look around. That graceful tree may be holding more than just beauty. It may be anchoring grief. And your body, your choices, your very sense of momentum may be echoing that message every day without your full awareness. There is, however, another kind of grace, one that stands upright, one that doesn't droop but opens, that doesn't retreat but reveals. Enter the camellia. At first glance, camellia may seem modest. Its leaves are dark, waxy, and its buds arrive in quiet waves. But watch it bloom and something changes. Its layered petals open with precision. There is dignity in its expression. There is softness, but without surrender. In Feng Shui, this matters deeply because the camellia doesn't absorb your sadness. It invites your strength. This is a flower that doesn't bend under its own weight. It lifts, it doesn't weep, it reveals. And that energetic distinction makes all the difference, especially for those seeking emotional clarity, grounded beauty, and a sense of self-worth that is not performative, but quietly radiant. Camellia is not loud, it doesn't beg for attention, but it transforms any space it graces with its presence. The placement of camellia is just as intentional as its energy. Unlike boundary setters like snake plant or prosperity magnets like lucky bamboo, the camellia doesn't want to guard or gather. It wants to accompany. Think of it not as a greeter or a protector, but as a companion. The kind you sit beside when you need perspective, not answers. That's why the best spot for it is just within view of your door, not directly next to it. Planted along the path, or potted next to a small bench. A visual cue that says, pause here, reflect, then go forward with clarity. Its message is gentle but firm. You are allowed to feel, but you are not required to carry everything. You may rest, but you must also rise. It's this very balance that makes camellia so vital for those recovering from prolonged emotional heaviness. Whether from relationships, career stagnation, family patterns, or personal loss. Another quiet power of the camellia lies in its cultural and symbolic lineage. Across many traditions, it's been revered not just for beauty, but for its alignment with self-respect, resilience, and emotional maturity. In Japanese tradition, it's linked to perfection and strength. In Chinese symbolism, It's often a gift of admiration, signifying someone of high virtue or inner beauty. And in modern Feng Shui, it has become a flower of refined emotional balance. Not fiery like the rose, not fleeting like the tulip, but anchored, poised, awake. Its color can also be tuned to your intent. Soft pink for healing, deep red for passion with self-trust, white for clarity. And all of them radiate quiet composure. And for those living in homes where drama tends to accumulate, where emotions run high or conversations circle endlessly without resolution, this plant becomes a gentle interrupter. It doesn't fix the noise. It softens the room around it so that people can breathe, speak, reconnect. Let's contrast this one final time with the willow. The willow's energy is memory, longing, echo. The camellia's energy is dignity, clarity, presence. And if you want your home to reflect not just your past, but your present emotional strength, then this shift matters. It's not about disowning the beauty of the willow. It's about recognizing when that beauty begins to anchor weight instead of light, and choosing consciously to evolve. So ask yourself, is my home a place of renewal or of reflection that never ends? Do I want to stand gently or with self-knowing? Do I want my environment to mourn or to mature? These are not just questions of plants. These are questions of posture, of presence, of how we hold ourselves and the people we love inside the spaces we build. Chameleia doesn't demand that you change, but it reminds you that change is possible, not through force, but through graceful, open alignment. And if you've come this far in our journey, through snake plants and peonies, lavender and lucky bamboo, then this final transition from willow to camellia is your reminder. You are not what you've lost. You are how you choose to stand from this moment forward. Final. Plants don't just decorate, they speak. The plants you place at your front door don't just say who you are, they say what you're ready to receive. And whether we notice it or not, our entrance is always speaking on our behalf. For many, this sacred threshold becomes a dumping ground of assumptions, filled with wild grasses, nostalgic vines, or decorative choices made for style over substance. But when the space that welcomes life into your home carries confusion, case, or unresolved memory, your energy absorbs that blueprint daily. Most people don't realize how often they do this. How common it is to plant ivy because it's easy, or leave cactus by the door believing it wards off harm, or place banana trees thinking they bring abundance, without asking what energy they truly release. It's not a mistake born of laziness. It's a pattern of unconsciousness. And that's the quiet epidemic. An entire generation designing entrances that look beautiful but block energy, that feel full but lack nourishment, that grow but not in ways that heal. In our last episode, we gently named what to avoid, not from fear but from awareness. We looked at the plants whose energy, although well-intentioned, may subtly repel, stagnate, or exhaust the chi trying to enter. Today, we reverse the lens. We didn't just clear what harms us, we curated what heals. From the soft resilience of lavender to the deep-rooted wealth of the jade plant, from the upward invitation of lucky bamboo to the protective clarity of rosemary, from the love-calling elegance of peonies to the boundary-setting quiet of the snake plant. Each one wasn't just a name on a list, it was a possibility, a permission, a pattern of life re-entering with intention. Because your entrance is not about impressing visitors, it's about preparing your own energy. It is the space between who you are and who you're becoming. It is the portal through which every phone call, every opportunity, every conversation, every unexpected miracle, every unspoken tension, all pass. And if the first energy they meet is sorrow, disorder, or energetic contradiction, then no affirmation, No vision board, no goal-setting ritual will land as deeply as it could. That's why Feng Shui doesn't start in the living room. It doesn't start already in your bedroom. It starts at your feet, where the world enters and where your essence greets it. So take a breath, look again. Is your front door merely functional, or is it aligned? Is the ground beneath it clear or cluttered? Do the leaves invite life or trap memory? Do your plants stretch skyward with gentle courage, or do they guard, cling, or scatter without direction? Most people never stop to ask these questions. But those who do, those who replant with presence, begin to feel the shift almost immediately. Not because the plants are magic, but because you, in that moment of choice, return to the role of co-creator. And that's the truth behind everything we've explored, not just in this episode, but in this entire series. Your home is not just a shell, it's a compass. And every object, every scent, every branch or blossom you welcome into it either realigns that compass or turns it ever so slightly off course. That's the subtle art of Feng Shui, not superstition, not decoration, but relationship. Relationship between your values and your environment, between your subconscious and your space, between your future and your front door. So plant with care. Let your entrance become your declaration, a quiet, beautiful statement that says, this is who I am becoming, and this is the life I am now ready to welcome in. And if even one leaf responds to that invitation, know that the work has already begun. The healing, the harmony, the alignment, it all starts here,